Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Podcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. I'm a little nervous for Monday, I'm not going to lie, and I'll feel better if we're up by 20 in the fourth quarter. Grossi, I'm sorry, I had to. It was calling me, and I was like, okay, am I going to do this right off the bat before we even converse? And yes, the answer was yes. So I'm going to skip all of the pleasantries because I am so excited to talk to the man that we have brought in today as a guest. He is the host and creator of the incredibly successful YouTube channel. We got Lieutenant Dan.
How's it going,
Dan,
guys?
Thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for being here, and thanks for being you.
Oh, well, thank you. I've been perusing your videos for quite some time. I have seen so much of you through your growth and maturity, going from, several years of work.
Yes. It was a portfolio.
Quite a colorful portfolio. Yes. But that being said, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Packers fans, the Packer Nation, you guys supporting Tom here and making him into the guy that he is today, and the humbleness that comes out of him, and the flamboyantness, and and all the things that he encompasses. That is what great YouTube quality content is all about. And so hats off to you guys, Packer Nation, for supporting him, and to all the people that are not part of Packers Nation that are supporting him. Thank you guys for doing what you do with Tom, and to all the grounders who are out there that follow me, Unintentional Grounding, Lieutenant Dan. Thank you guys for doing everything that you guys do. So with that being said, Tom, I think you have some questions.
So do you want me to like Venmo or PayPal you for that like intro? Because like usually I'm the one who's just like build them up, but that one, I mean, I'm good. Like we can cut it right there. Like we're good. Like that was a great episode.
There's no ending now. There was only a beginning.
That's it. That's all we need. That is all we need. Yeah. Okay, great. You're my favorite guest already because you said really nice things about me. Okay. Usually it doesn't go that way, but Dan, I have so many questions for you. Like I truly don't even know where to start, but I guess we'll start with this. This season for the Atlanta Falcons, you know the Friends theme song where
yes,
no one tells me that life was going to go this way. I feel like, even if you were like, okay, maybe the Falcons will struggle out of the gate. They're playing some good teams, what have you. It's not the fact that it's 0-3. It's the way that we've gotten there. So I feel like I just want to explore your headspace right now. And I mean that in the most sensual way possible. How are you feeling as an Atlanta Falcons fan right now?
Well, thank you for starting this out gently, because honestly, there could have been a road that we could have gone down and been like,
oh, don't worry.
So
it's right around the bend.
So why does your team
right
suck?
Around the
bend? How did we get to this point? To tell you the time without telling you how the exact clock works, we can kind of go back to particular moments before this all happened. So let's actually go back to the hurt and the pain. Let's go back to 2016. Let's go back to 28-3.
I didn't bring it up. I just want to make it very clear. I did not bring it up first.
You did not bring it up?
You did, because I was going to, but now I don't have to feel bad about myself.
I will bring it up for you because it's a key piece in understanding the I guess the Venn diagram that is the Atlanta Falcons and how that actually works. So you have an ownership group that was more or less after the Mike Smith years trying to find stability and try to find nuance. And then you have a new head coach in Dan Quinn, who was trying to prove that it wasn't just Pete Carroll that made this defense what it was. It was the leadership that Dan Quinn brought to the group, and that he could harness that talent that you had in the Legion of Boom from so many years ago. Because I can't believe it, but it's 2020 now, and the Legion of Boom has been a dead thing for quite some time. And I know there's a certain 2012 game that we all want to forget.
Nope.
But that being said, you see how Dan Quinn worked in Seattle, and then he comes to Atlanta, and you see the 2015 year, the 2016 year leading into 28-3, and the loss in the Super Bowl, and then the recoup after that in 2017. And you see that Dan Quinn is there's Kool-Aid that you drink, okay? And then there's Kool-Aid that you give other people, all right? And this is the Kool-Aid that you have given someone else, that you start to see that Dan Quinn's deficiencies are that's really sugary substance that gives you nothing at the end, but it's super sweet and beautiful at the beginning. That changes are going to come, and you drink all that Kool-Aid, and then you end up having a stomach ache afterwards because you had too much of the grape or too much of the. My favorite is blue raspberry, but that being said, yeah, Dan Quinn, you started seeing the deficiencies in 2017 and 2018 because the lead up was that, Kyle Shanahan, there's no tablets that he comes down from Shanahan Mountain that his offense is the most legitimate of all time. But you see that what he does provide and with the players that he can obtain, his offenses work. And having a competent quarterback in Matt Ryan makes it even better. So going into 2017, you were hoping that Shanahan would be retained or be promoted to head coach, and he goes on and does his own thing. So Sarkisian comes in, and then you start seeing that Dan Quinn's defense isn't what it's advertised to be. That Dan Quinn was on a team with a lot of talent in the Legion of Boom, had a mastermind of a head coach in Pete Carroll, despite what you think of him, that his defense works, that his system works, and you can't take a cheap knockoff or imitation and create a Legion of Boom 2. And then you started seeing that the defense, and this is 2017, 2018, 2019, 2018 being historical year where all of our defense basically just fell off the earth. I mean, you saw Keanu Neal get hurt again. You saw Ricardo Allen get hurt. The entire team kind of nosedived. And so for those of you that don't know about the Atlanta Falcons, and that's kind of the lead up to it, it's a defense that is an imitation or a cheap knockoff of what you were doing in Seattle. It has there's no real thought process to it. It's that my athletes versus your athletes, and then hopefully our minimal system will make it work. And then just throw 4 or 5 guys at a quarterback and hope that it gets there. And this, now the overarching problem here in 2020 is that this team's coaching staff is built upon throwaways from other units. Raheem Morris, a throwaway from the Buccaneers, couldn't handle the heat in the kitchen when he became a head coach there. He's here now as our defensive coordinator, and it's not working. Dan Quinn, not a throwaway, but definitely a cheap imitation of what he was there. Dirk Cutter, a cheap imitation offensive coordinator that's been with Atlanta in 2012 and is not head coach material and is not a very deep, I would say probably about average offensive coordinator. I'm not going to knock him for his philosophy because he does have a decent philosophy if you have a decent defense. We don't have a decent defense, so he just goes and throws the ball in all three parts of the series, and then we punt.
Yeah.
So that's basically what you have in Atlanta right now. It's how did we get here? We got here through cheap imitation and a hope that things would get better and do something different. And where we currently are now is probably a deep scrub. You go to one of those massage places and they're like, would you like the Turkish bath, or would you like the deep back massage, or would you like, I would want it all, please. I would like every bit of it, so that my GM is gone, my head coach is gone, my entire staff is wiped, because honestly, this is a culture problem. This has nothing to do anymore with statistics or with a system. This has everything to do with the culture is toxic. And a lot of players have bought into that culture because they feel comfortable and they feel safe. And you have a couple of key players, I won't name those guys, but key players that are keeping this team kind of together and going. And it's not much longer until those key players are too old to throw the ball and or catch the ball. And then you'll have to start all over with the players too. So there's a deep fix that needs to happen in Atlanta. There's a lot of pieces that are good, but a deep fix needs to be done.
Yeah, I feel like what you just said, like that little like mini history, that kind of like encompasses everything that you see now. And it's not just of like, oh, they got off to a bad start kind of thing. Because the Falcons, for me, and obviously this is from like an outsider looking in.
Yeah.
the Falcons for me are one of those teams. I even said it this year, like that they could be like that dark horse team because it seems like they have like the main pieces that they need, especially on the offense, right?
Yeah.
You have Matt Ryan as a quarterback who is a good quarterback. He consistently puts up good numbers, right? And you have Julio Jones, who is arguably, I think, the best wide receiver in the league. Yeah.
I mean, there is a guy named Nuke, but I'm not gonna.
Like you have weapons, right? And like even like the bringing in of Todd Gurley, yes, it's a risky sign because if that knee doesn't hold out, then yeah. But if you get prime Todd Gurley, if that's such a thing anymore, maybe it works out a little bit better than it did with Devontae Freeman. Like
true.
There's a lot of like what ifs and what have you, and I think my follow-up question to that, you're talking about like a deep cleanse essentially.
Yeah.
Like, is this something that happens like mid-season? Is this of like, okay, we're going to see how this goes? Because last year, I mean, you guys struggled. And then there's a few games where we're like, oh, hey, like they showed up, right? Like they showed up and they won some games and surprisingly won some games like dominantly. And I was like, oh, okay, like there you go. Like maybe things are starting to click. And I would imagine that saved Dan Quinn's job last year. I would imagine.
To a degree. Yeah, to a degree. So what what you're asking is it's like half a fan answer and half an actual analytical answer. The answer to this is there is no. If I were to give you a team, and you were to be running it, you were the owner of it, right? You make all the decisions for the most part. Sure. Because you probably have some guys underneath that are really making the decisions for you. You just backed off and kind of making bigger decisions for the organization as a whole, monetarily and how you move certain things. There is nobody on this current staff right now that would be the answer for you going forward because of all the reasons that I've said in my mini history rant, which was you have a cast-off group of guys that have underperformed at their positions previously, and none of those guys are going to are going to be the difference maker here and change the identity. What you have currently right now in Atlanta is fans that want their pound of flesh. They want to see Dan Quinn
that is true.
taken out, but all that's going to do if you were to take him out midseason, is a linear move. It's not going to make any sense here. And I keep telling fans over and over, you want Dan Quinn gone, so do I. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we have to keep this group together because it's going to be a total cleanse at the end anyway. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're talking about the GM and even Rich McKay, who is I think he's like the assistant vice president or something like that. Okay. We're talking about these guys potentially all being wiped completely. So it's fun to fantasize about getting a new coach mid-season, but who's taking that job?
Yeah, exactly. Like the availability of like the kind of coach that you would want in that position, right, is not available in the middle of the season, 3 games into the season.
When you're talking about guys like Don Martindale from the Baltimore Ravens potentially being a target for you last year, he signs with the Ravens to stay on with them to win a Super Bowl, and his defense against the Kansas City Chiefs only a few nights ago, I mean, ripped to shreds. Then you start to see why the Falcons last year didn't move away from Dan Quinn and gave him another opportunity, even in a 7-9 season. That's a losing record.
Sure.
You're looking at not a lot of great options for your team on the outside for that year. And now you've got no options on the inside. So you're looking for a candidate that is not within the same realm of conversation that the regular fans or the regular analysts or pundits are talking about. So we're talking about somebody whose name has not come up in the coaching carousel potentially. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at right now in that.
I get you. And I think I love the comparison that you make talking about like Dan Quinn being like a poor man's like Pete Carroll, because I feel like I gotta be honest, like I don't really hear those comparisons a whole lot because I feel like when you get to the comparisons of like, oh, you have a successful head coach, there's coaches underneath them, and then they try to go other places and they fail. I always think of the Patriots, right? Because like the Bill Belichick, how many coaches have you seen go to other places and they don't do well, right?
Players and coaches, right? Yes. Like they'll just get rid of players just in the middle of their prime, and then suddenly they just don't do anything for any other team.
They tank. Absolutely. Exactly. And I think it speaks to, and I think a couple weeks I talked about this. It speaks to like the system that's created in New England. It is a very, very well-run machine, right?
Culture,
in which you can bring in guys who, wouldn't be starters in other places, and they do like phenomenal because they fit within the system. They do that one job, they fit that one role. Beautiful. They're not asked anything more, and that's it. And I think, what the Falcons are missing the more I think about it, because you could even make that argument too for Seattle, right? Seattle, like in Pete Carroll and the system that he's running is really good, even if that defense isn't obviously the Legion of Boom again. You look at them, they're always competitive. Russell Wilson's a big part of that as well. But you have the Falcons, that system's just not there. Like it's just, it's non-existent. And I could make the argument that, with Green Bay, for many years under McCarthy, like that was an Aaron Rodgers run system, and said like, hey, like I'm going to be the reason why we succeed and why we don't.
I've made the comparison several times to that point about how if you took Aaron Rodgers out of the equation for the last couple of years, Aaron Rodgers is the crutch for the team.
Yes.
And over the last 2 years, I've seen a defense actually built in Green Bay, which we'll get on later in this discussion about Falcons versus Packers and how this is one of the best defenses they have seen to date up to this point. But I see actual drafting and building through free agency in Green Bay, and I see a lot of poor man's decisions in Atlanta based on just trying to stay stable. Charles Harris, defensive end, pick him up because you don't know what you have left in Tack McKinley, or you don't know what you have on the other side with Dante Fowler Jr. So you're just picking up stuff to try to put blocks in places and fill holes.
Piecemeal. Yeah, you're just here. We just gotta put all our Legos together.
It's a dollar menu meal basically. Yeah. You're getting the dollar fry and the dollar shake, and you're getting the dollar 2 burgers, and you're getting the dollar nuggets, and you're hoping that it feels
good after you eat it, but like it's something. It's something to just sit there. It's just a lot of like food and drink references today. Like we started off with Kool-Aid. I thought that was gonna go somewhere else. I thought you're like the Kool-Aid is poisoned. Like we were going like Jim Jones. Like you sip on it, and Dan Quinn's like, who he is. Like that's where I thought that was going. But like I like it. It's just like it's just pain. It's just sugar water.
Yeah, it's all you're getting.
So like what's fascinating to me is a lot of pundits, and because that's what they are, like a lot of pundits have looked at the past 2 weeks of the Atlanta Falcons, and they have pointed to everything. They pointed to Dan Quinn. There even was like a gun pointed at Matt Ryan for his performance this past Sunday of like.
Well, that always happens, Tom. Yeah. Unfortunately, if you were a Falcons fan, you'd understand that Matt Ryan every week, whether it's an Atlanta fan or somebody else, will always point to Matt Ryan and say, "You guys need to get younger, and you need to get a running quarterback or the next Pat Mahomes or something."
Yeah, sure. Let me just pull that out of my ass because
let me just draft that.
You're just like, I'll take that one.
Yeah, exactly.
The only people who could have done that were the Bears, but sorry, every day I have to get that one little jab in there. So thank you for indulging me there. So
thank you, Trubisky.
May he rest in peace.
Oof.
So these past 2 weeks, what do we talked about like the culmination of like what has led up to the team that you currently have now. Yeah. Specifically, if we're getting down to a micro level of what has happened in these past 2 weeks of making history, the worst kind of history you could possibly make. Do you point at that? Because I was reading that like players were saying like, that's not on Dan Quinn, that's on us. It's mental, what have you. How much of that is like lip service to be like, yeah, no, don't fire Dan Quinn? And how much of you looking at that from a fan and as an analyst and are saying like, no, here's what the actual problem is for these past 2 games, how we have blown double-digit leads in the fourth.
Let's just go back to week 1 and our week 1 loss. And let's talk about every single entity all blamed themselves, but nobody gave anything to Dan Quinn. The person that was the most silent in the room and the least talked about was Dan Quinn. Raheem Morris blamed himself. The DB coach blamed himself and the players not being on their cue. The players blamed themselves and said that there was miscue in the coverage and miscue at the line and they weren't communicating. And while all of these things may be true,
sure,
and they could definitely be without question,
right?
It sure does seem extra convenient. And maybe this is me being a theorist here or trying to find a conspiracy. But Dan Quinn has been the most silent week in and week out. And it hasn't been until this last week that Dan Quinn has actually come out and said, hey, there's these problems and we're upset about it. The same Dan Quinn mantra that comes out every week. That's like, we're upset and
we're mad.
We're so mad. And this is not our process. And our culture is not like that. That's not what we breed here. Well, obviously, Dan, to be just that guy, you do breed that culture here. You breed that culture here every single day. You promote that culture. And thus the reason why in a 7-9 season in 2019, your players stuck up for you and were basically beating Arthur Blank's door, our owner, to say Dan Quinn needs to stay because you're comfortable. And that's that Kool-Aid. You drink it, you become part of it, you absorb that DNA of that culture, and now there's no way to get rid of it without scrubbing the whole thing clean.
But is that like a lack of, and again, obviously in your opinion, like, is that a lack of like accountability? Because like, I feel like there's no one in that locker room that has to be like happy, right? Like with the way that they performed for the past 2 weeks, going back 3 weeks, or you saying like, no, like they're at a level of comfort where they're just like, I get a nice paycheck and I get to play football. Like, where are we in like, how could you be comfortable with that? Is it like,
take it to the Dallas game, Tom? If you take it to the Dallas game, you can see that the special teams at the very end of the game blew the game, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't know what an onside kick was and they didn't pick up the onside kick. It's okay, Packers fans. It's okay, Tom. You guys can laugh. It's okay. It's all right. It happens to everybody that's not the Atlanta Falcons. The special teams unit had nothing to say. The defense said, we're 1-0 and left it at that. And that means that there are defenders that most likely, and probably a couple of names, Julio Jones, that maybe are saying some things behind closed doors that are saying, hey, you guys are the ones that messed up here.
Sure.
And we won that game. Offensively, we took that game. Defensively, we made enough stops to win that game.
Sure.
We should be 1-0 right now. And special teams, you didn't take your part. You didn't do what you needed to do. Now, defense, you let up 40 points. So don't start calling other people out for your shortcomings. Yes. So that's, is there a way to get accountability in a culture that basically only blames themselves, but blames themselves out of the ability to save someone else?
Sure.
That's a bad culture in its own right? Like everybody in your household can say that they ate part of the sandwich that was for you, Tom, but at the end of the day, like that sandwich was yours, and there is one person to blame, whoever started eating that sandwich.
Yeah, and there's hell to pay.
Exactly. No one wants to take your salami and pepperoni and on rye and
saving it all day. It was a tough day at work, and I just came home to one good thing. Just one good thing.
And it's gone. What's the problem here?
Piece of garbage. Yeah. I get that. That makes a lot. Because like if you look at it too, like you look at, again, outsider, players standing up for Dan Quinn, you're like, wow, they really love their coach. They're really standing up for him. Like, what a great moment. Like Mike McCarthy, they literally fired him after the Cardinals game, and they were like, well, bye. Like they have a street named after him, and they were just like, okay, bye. Like get out now. You leave. And then they're like, Joe Philbin comes in, and they're just like, yeah, we believe in Joe Philbin. And like McCarthy's like still like packing up his desk, and like they're literally kicking him down. They've already taken his keys, his security access.
Man.
I feel like with Dan Quinn, maybe it goes to the end of the season in which, because like you said, like if they fire him right now, it's not like anything's going to drastically change, right? It's not like
your emotional status as a fan will change.
Yes.
For 10 seconds when you see Dirk Cutter or Raheem Morris or Jeff Ulbrich take the stand and then get slapped around by Kansas City, the Saints twice. And historically we're bad against AFC teams. So San Diego, who's now LA, right? So LA, yep. There's a bunch of other ones that are on the schedule with AFC that we're gonna, it's gonna be an L.
I get you. You're just like, it's not gonna be good.
No.
Well, you know what? I want to put a tiny bit of a positive before we get into more sadness.
Oh yes,
a tiny bit. Your new stadium it's like $5 for a beer.
I
That's a
went to the
culture.
stadium the year that it opened.
Okay.
And got an opportunity to go through that entire stadium. And I will say that it is an experience. And you have to put it on your bucket list of places to go to see. Like, I need to go to Lambeau and see Lambeau for all its glory and what it is. I would love to be able to go to MetLife and just check it out. I mean, it's not a beautiful stadium for anything, but to check out different stadiums around
Sure.
Levi Stadium would be a fantastic just to check it out, because the atmosphere changes from place to place. Soldier Field would be really unique to take a look at. I have no want to go to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome over there in New Orleans, but I've been to Tampa Stadium, which is actually kind of cool when you see the cannons go off. If they ever
have
score.
a pirate ship. I mean, like, legit,
it's
like,
cool.
It doesn't even matter. Like, literally, as soon as you walk in there and see a pirate ship, you're like, I'm 8 years old again. This is fantastic.
Exactly. It's fantastic. But yes, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium is just an experience, and the quality of the stadium, the people that work in there, amazing. And yeah, it's $3 to $5 for a beer. So I'll take it.
So you know what fans are like? Everything's broken except that. You keep
except
that.
That's one thing
that works.
And even they messed that up because they don't let Chick-fil-A be there. They have Zaxby's. So
close to perfection. So close. Wait, I just realized. Did you say so? So wait, I guess I never realized that. So you have a Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and then
yes, and there's another Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So we have the quote unquote rights to Mercedes-Benz and their new stadium. They put their stuff on it. Now I believe that they're still calling it Mercedes-Benz in New Orleans. That may have changed. For right now, I think the naming rights are still the same. From what I understand,
I feel like that just adds to the hatred.
Yes, very, very much so. Atlanta fans and New Orleans fans are probably the most heated rivalry, and I know Vikings and Packers is probably incredibly huge in the North. You probably, I don't know, maybe you're bigger with the Bears.
Not this year. Sorry. Oh man, did I say that? That's so weird how that came out like that.
Tom, do you like that? Do you like that? Because I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, I like that. I most certain. And there's 84 million reasons for me to like that, plus the extension. So there's hundreds of millions of reasons why I don't even like it. I love it. I love it so much. So much.
Oh my goodness.
I wish he was playing this Monday night. Yeah, okay. So there's that. So if you go into the spa, you get you work all the kinks out, right?
Yep.
Someone just goes to town.
Yep.
As a fan / analyst, and as someone who has seen many iterations of the Atlanta Falcons, what would you want to see this new team's identity be if you had a choice?
That's really tough. Because the fan base as a whole would like to see it go to more of a spread system, more airing the ball out. But I would like to kindly remind all Atlanta fans that you currently do have a spread system in Dirk Cutter because he only throws verticals. So there is that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that want to get the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. I mean, who doesn't?
Oh, Eric Bieniemy.
Bieniemy.
Yep.
They want him to be the next head coach. And I would like to kindly remind Atlanta fans that we have a 34, 35-year-old QB who does not have the no-look passes.
He definitely looks.
He definitely looks, but doesn't just know where a guy is just magically is or is not. There's a lot to desire with a quarterback in Matt Ryan that definitely can make all the throws and whose intelligence is leaps and bounds among most quarterbacks. I mean, we can be facetious and say that he is top 5, but I would say more top 10 than anything. He's one of the most solid quarterbacks. And if, given a solid defense and he doesn't necessarily need weapons. I mean, he's got those. And even when he doesn't have them, I mean, Calvin Ridley's going off for 100, 200 yards a game. So there's that. What would I like to see this Falcons offense or defense or this team just in general to go to? I want to see something that hasn't been done. And I know that's really tough because pretty much everything's been done in the game of football. There's power running. We've seen the Dolphins use what is that, the Wildcat as their main offense. We've seen just about everything. I mean, a triple option was used once in the NFL. God forbid we have to see that again. Thanks, Ravens. What do I want to see? I would love to see a West Coast offense here. I would love to see getting back down to possession football, moving the ball, moving the chains. I'm not looking for the New England Patriots. That's not what I'm looking for here. I mean, most people will go Josh McDaniels, West Coast offense. We can play some play action off of that. Matt Ryan does best, and I think most quarterbacks do really well with this: play action and heavy running. And I think if we get back down to those core values, you're going to have a successful team, even if it's just an average offense. It can be above average with execution. So what I would like to see is a West Coast offense predicated off of a lot of play action. In my defense, I would like to see it go to a 34 defense and let Grady Jarrett be a defensive end because he is more or less your underling underneath an Aaron Donald. I mean, think of the defensive ends in this league and then go look at the numbers and you see there's Aaron Donald up there and there's Grady Jarrett only a few spots right underneath him. So it's to let a disruptor do his thing and allow him to attack the ball would make Grady Jarrett a much scarier defensive tackle, putting him in a 34 defense. She ran in Clemson under Dabo Swinney, which is Brent Venables, which is kind of funny that I mentioned those names. That being said, though, a 34 defense with a lot of man-to-man and a West Coast offense that predicates off of a play action and running the ball could do wonders for this team while Matt Ryan is still here. And then regardless of whether you go into this draft next or the one after that, find your quarterback that can be behind Ryan in a Aaron Rodgers-esque role behind a Brett Favre. I know that's very traditionalist of me to say sit a guy behind a quarterback.
That is one of those things I never like. Why did
we get away from it?
I get why, because like investors, they need to see like the brand new like draft. I don't agree with any of that though. Yeah. I mean, like you look at like Patrick Mahomes, right? Alex Smith sits behind, Aaron Rodgers sits behind like Brett Favre. You see that it is a tremendous help. And for someone to sit behind a guy like Matt Ryan, yeah, like he's going to learn a ton about the game of football.
So much of the professionalism that is Matt Ryan. I mean, you've never seen Matt Ryan be in trouble in the news. You've never seen him have a hot take. He's always been very straightforward, straight shooter with whatever he said. I mean, even earlier in his career, when you saw him say like, get the heck out Panthers and like that, he still came back with grace and said, it is rivalry. It is the state of the game. And if you don't have some of that, like Phillip Rivers with Denver, when he and who was the quarterback that was there, they would go back and forth all the time. You've got to have some of that in your blood, or else you can't be quote unquote Matty Ice, or you can't be ice in your veins kind of guy. So that's kind of what I would like to see with the team as a whole. Kind of go forward, put a guy behind Ryan, let him learn. We're currently on pace for the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. We continue to lose. So Packers fans, you can help us out on Monday night.
Loss a day.
Trevor Lawrence is right there, and you would love to see him in Atlanta.
You know what? It's so funny because like we have gone from like, okay, Jaguars, they're going to be a bad team this year. They might get Trevor Lawrence. We've gone from the Washington football team. They might tank and get Trevor Lawrence. And then like the other names start coming out of the woodwork. The Vikings have now entered the sweepstakes, right? Like even the Lions, like there's talks about that and wanting to move on from Matthew Stafford, especially if they get rid of Matt Patricia. You look at a team like the Falcons. Who knows? The Panthers could do it. Like, if Teddy Bridgewater's not going to, it's so fascinating that like we have literally just like opened up this sweepstakes, and even
Pandora's box,
like a QB that still has a few years left in him, right? Of like good quality football. They're just like, yeah, but if we're in that opportunity, like we might have to. I mean, even the Jets, right? Like, look how bad the Jets are. And I don't think Sam Darnold's the complete problem there, but I would not be surprised if they go and draft him if they're in the first pick.
Yeah. So I definitely agree on that statement because I'm a big draft guy and I really like doing a lot of draft talk and looking into the depth of drafts and looking at this particular draft, just kind of give you a little small snippet of what this draft might be. You're looking at a strong quarterback draft with about 6 to 7 guys, all who could be in the first to second round. All of them with strong arms, high football IQs. It's just take your pick on whether or not you want them to be a little mobile or if you want them to be more traditional. And this is one of those drafts that's got amazing tight ends, some really solid corners, and then everything else begins to kind of fall off from there. Your defensive ends are top heavy. Your defensive tackles are top heavy. Your running backs are very top heavy. Some returners from the 2019 draft that went back to school for 2020, and then COVID happened. So your Travis Etienne's and Najee Harris's and Chuba Hubbard's and things of that nature. So this draft right now sets you up for if you're a bad team and perfect. You need a guy, this is it. This is the draft to go and do it. And there's a lot of great names in it.
Listen, I heard that wide receiver might be okay, but just don't tell the Packers because they won't draft one if that's. But if
you have Lazard, and I don't want to hear any Packers fans scream about how this kid is not just the next.
Thank you.
Because coming out of Iowa State, I was looking at Lazard as one of those guys that you can take this guy, make him a number 2 on your team, and who turns into a number 1. In fact, actually, he reminds me specifically of an older wide receiver from the Packers. And I'll let you guess who that is.
You're saying it's Donald Driver?
I'm not saying Donald.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But I mean, it's very similar. It's very similar.
I'm just saying. It's similar stories. I'm just saying.
It's similar. Okay, it could be a great outcome there for you guys. No, but seriously, Lazard is just the truth. I truly believe that he's going to be the Packers number 1 by the end of this season, going into next season. You're going to see a change in his identity. He loves the game of football, and he's got the baddest man on the planet like throwing him the ball. So there's that.
It's one of those things that, like, obviously going into this draft, I did not think we weren't going to draft any wide receiver. I said maybe we don't even get one day 1. Maybe we potentially don't even get one day 2, maybe, or like maybe the very end of day 2, or maybe like we'll probably get one in day 3. And when we didn't draft any of them, obviously I was a bit surprised. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was too. But going into, as we got closer to the season, you look at all the weapons that they have that weren't even necessarily wide receivers, right? Aaron Jones has proven to be deadly in the passing game. Jamal Williams, right behind that. We don't really know what A.J. Dillon has yet in the passing game, but those calves, he can run for days. But you even look at like the Jay Sternbergers or Robert Tonyan, who has been like a guy who's last week kind of like blew up a little bit onto the scene. You have Mercedes Lewis, who had a great touchdown catch. Like you have all these threats and these weapons. And every single time I talk about it, I'm like, there's so many options to give the ball out to. And that's if nobody else steps up besides Devontae Adams. You have MVS having a good first 2 games. You have Allen Lazard killing it in this last game. And I think like that's kind of what the Packers' identity is kind of gone around of just like, we can give the ball to so many different people, try and scheme for that.
Yeah. I truly believe that the deadliest weapons are the ones that you keep in your pocket until you want to utilize.
Yeah.
And the list that you just provided is a great example of the Packers with a lot of people, fans in general, who don't know their names.
Yeah.
And are going to know their names by the end of a game when they have to face the Packers, because they're going to go, that guy roasted us. Who is he? And then they're typing on their computers and they're trying to figure out, do I get this guy in fantasy and what's going to happen here? And that's incredible. It's incredible to have a deep pool of receiving weapons. I wouldn't count A.J. Dillon into that factor because I would say that he's just your power back. But as an ACC guy myself, yes, I think that the Packers are set up for incredible success going for the one little tiny thing is that I know who Matt LaFleur is, and I'm not stupid. Let's be careful about Matt LaFleur. Just as a precursor, as a Falcons fan looking out for another team whose fan base has been somewhat friendly. This is the guy who copied everything from Shanahan. Be very, very careful about turning on him going forward if Aaron Rodgers isn't the one that's running the show. All right? Just giving that out. Just giving that out. Okay.
I'm just
Be careful.
gonna say something. Matt LaFleur, to your point, and by to your point, I mean it has nothing to do with your point, is the sexiest head coach in the NFL. I just want to put that out there. That has nothing to do with what you said. But if you're gonna tell me that he's gonna stab me in the back, at least I'm going to be able to be like, hey, guy over there stabbed me. Like, we're good. So like I'm saying right now, I mean, I am thrilled with the job that LaFleur has done. Yeah, I truly am. And for him to come into an organization, you know, they had 2 years where they weren't doing great. You know, they missed the playoffs. And then all of the crap that we had to endure during the offseason of, oh, LaFleur's really young. Rodgers is not going to respect him. He's going to run all over him. And, you know, people aren't going to buy into this and blah, 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 blah. Like, all of that stuff happened. And the thing is, too, like, I don't think Matt LaFleur is done. You know, you were talking about, you know, any weaknesses on the Packers. Like, it's on the defensive side of the ball, even though they did improve, right?
Yeah.
You know, you look at like the run defense was still not great last year, especially in the NFC Championship game. Like, it wasn't great. You know, at linebacker, Christian Kirksey is now down. So you rely on a guy like Ty Summers, who's a very late draft pick and is very, very unproven. And then, you know, Kamal Martin's hurt too, but you have to work on like Oren Burks, who has been so hit or miss. I think, you know, putting that all together, like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers don't win a Super Bowl this year, I wouldn't be surprised if they fire Mike Pettin. Like, if the defense doesn't get like much better, so LaFleur can bring his own guy in and be like, this is who I want to install as a defensive coordinator here to just continue building the team in like his image and what they want to be. But I mean, just the fact of like the locker room shift that happened under McCarthy. And I think McCarthy's a good coach. I think it's just, it was too stale. He overstayed his welcome and that was whatever. But the shift from one year to the next of just how the locker room was like coming together, they bought into this system hard. Like, I'm very happy with what LaFleur has done thus far.
He has copied some of Shanahan's playbook that he learned in Atlanta, and he has copied Mike McCarthy's playbook and sprinkled and sewed these two things together. And for the most part, it's worked. So, and Aaron Rodgers is comfortable with it, which leads to points, which leads to great plays, which leads to consistency, and especially since they bought into it. That's the big thing from an outsider looking in. If you bought into that system and it is working, because you would only buy into it if it was working, unless you're in Atlanta and you buy. I
was just about to say, working. I was like, wait a minute, didn't we just?
But you only buy into it if it's actually working.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for y'all being able to have a coach that brought a system in, even if it's a little bit of a Frankenstein, and called it his own, made it and morphed it into something that Aaron Rodgers and company are good at, and then basically just said to the defense, get good or else. Get good or else. That's just it. And the defense has gotten good. Like, I mean,
better.
Better.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're not comparing much, but it definitely has improved. And again, you know, I think it's also important to keep perspective too, right? Like, for both of our teams, to be honest, right? Like, it's week 4. Like, it is week 4. Now, I don't know how optimistic you are of just like, we can turn this ship around, but at the same time, like, what the teams that we see right now, I imagine are going to be very different come December, for better or
without
for
question.
worse. You know, they're definitely going to be different. So heading into Monday's game, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I'm relatively nervous about this game, and you might think that's like ridiculous. You might, but personally, you know, a lot of times like, oh, Packers have number 1 offense right now. The Falcons are ranking 32nd in a whole bunch of categories or near the very bottom. I'm looking at it as if like the Falcons have good pieces and they can score points. They obviously can score points.
You're looking at it as a trap game. And it's a good terminology to use for a game that an offense that's not clicking. There are pieces currently right now with Atlanta that it is working. If they continue to get some of those, as gloom and doom as I have been about Atlanta in this podcast, and please don't get me wrong, guys, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed and a lot of things that need to be turned and changed. But the things that you can hang your hat on, Matt Ryan's still fantastic. His offensive line is not terrible. They have weapons. Regardless of Julio Jones is playing or not, they can still put up 20-something points. So that's still enough for you to be able to stay in a game or even win a game. It all comes down to whether or not you can continue to steamroll like that if you have to outgun the Packers. And so talking about some positives here, can they beat the Packers in a game where the Packers might be a little overconfident? They can. It can happen any given Sunday, right? I'm not going to be completely pessimistic about the Falcons' chances against Green Bay. I think this defense is going to give the Falcons fits early on. If they control the clock, then there's a potential that Green Bay doesn't get the ball when they need to have it. Although, I mean, all they would have to do is win an onside kick, and the Falcons are 0-1 on that route. So, yeah.
That's supposed to be you guys, too. You're supposed to be the one that recovers all the onside kicks. I thought we established this last year.
Thank you, Koo. I appreciate it. The positives here are that this offense is still one of the better ones in the league. It can still score points. And this defense, as beat up and as banged up and as absolutely atrocious as it can be, it causes fumbles, it causes interceptions, it makes plays. It just has to execute in the times that it needs to be there. And I mean, yes, all game you need to be there, but you need to be able to close out 3 of the quarters. And I would say closing out second and third and fourth quarter is imperative in this league, because you see them play really well in the first quarter. You see them really play well in the second quarter. Leading into halftime, you see the Falcons defense that you're like, hey, they might win this game. They have all the opportunity, and they just fall short because of coaching, safe coaching changes in the middle of games and trying to do too much and overthinking. And so that's why this staff currently is, on the hot seat, because games like this one that we're going to see on Monday night, the Packers could blow the Falcons out 43-0, or we could have a 28-30 shootout where the Falcons win on a field goal. We can that can happen.
Sure.
Any of those, anywhere in between, can happen there. So I'm excited about the game coming up, and where there's only positives for Atlanta. We beat the Packers.
Yeah.
We could go 8-8 this year. We lose to the Packers. Hey, man, y'all helped us get one step closer to Trevor Lawrence, and I'm
so happy to help you. I'm so happy to help you on your journey. like I'm like the shaman. Like, if you're tripping on mushrooms, I'm the guy who's guiding you, and just be like, it's going to be okay.
Perfect.
Now. We're gonna make sure you have a good time as you just like settle into bliss. Yeah. That's one of those things that, for me, so like a couple years back, and this was a problem. So when we drafted Rashawn Gary with the 12th overall pick in last year's draft, the only reason that we got the number 12th pick was because we wound up beating the Jets, a game I was at, in overtime.
And you guys were going to be like middle of the pack in the first 10 picks or something like that.
I think we were going to be like number 8 or something. We were going to have like what the Lions had or what have you. And I remember fans were so angry because they're like, we could have gotten Ed Oliver, like we could have gotten this we could have gotten TJ Hawkinson if we wanted to, like we could have gotten these.
That was that draft.
I wanted TJ Hawkinson. I did. I was sold on TJ Hawkinson really hard. But all that being said, I mean, from your perspective and like kind of how you're viewing this season as well, like if you lose the next few games, is there kind of like auto drive, like let's go get the better draft pick? Because I've asked this to a lot of guests, or is it like it's my team, I'm still rooting for them on Sunday? Because I'm not going to hate on either side. Me personally, I'm going to root for my team all the time because then it gets like boring. I don't want to watch the game if I'm not hoping they win.
Yeah. I think if you're just asking me personally where I'm going to stand, as a content creator and as somebody that really loves the draft, I have already been looking at the 2021 draft since June.
Okay.
So I'm more excited about rushing to that point and seeing where all of that happens, because that's like Christmas Day for me. I mean, the night before the draft is Christmas Eve. I celebrate, I pop bottles, and I'm all the hard work that I have done up to that point.
Yeah.
Looking at the finer things of these players and getting to talk to them and having interviews and all the lead up, all of that finally feels like an accomplishment to me when I get to that point. As a fan,
I love and I love how you didn't say but too. Like it was just like, I'm gonna go out there. Long dramatic pause. Now.
Now, as a fan, I will continue to root for this team, and I'll continue to support them all the way down to the bottom. I mean, if you just want just a second of knowing who the hell I am, I'm an Orlando City fan in MLS. I'm a Braves fan in baseball. I'm a Orlando Magic fan in basketball, and I'm a Falcons fan in football. I root for nothing but projects and people that need work. But honestly, I will most likely look at the future of the team, because for the first time in, I think, about 10 years, I'm getting another opportunity at a new head coach where I'm excited. It wasn't that I wasn't excited for Dan Quinn.
Sure.
But I knew that was already over back in 2012.
Ooh,
2012, I knew Mike Smith was out. There was no two ways about it. And then by the time 2014 came and he was actually outed, I was like, but we've known.
Yeah.
That's not a thing. This has actually come to as a shock to me, and has been a lead up that has finally been like, in some of the movies where they take one of the offerings to the gods and they throw him into the volcano and be like, all right, make things better.
Yeah. And
sometimes there's a tiki god that comes out and is like, thank you for the offering. I made everything better. And sometimes just the volcano erupts and they all die. Yeah, that's, I think, as a fan, where I'm currently at. Throwing this staff into the volcano and hoping that the tiki god comes out and is like, I got you, buddy. No problem. I'm going to make it better. Instead of the whole thing just bubbling over and seeing the worst, which could be Matt Ryan wasting away, never getting a Super Bowl, Julio Jones leaving, and us having to really restart from the very, very, very bottom. So, but it's exciting. It's exciting. I will still root for this team all the way.
And that's what I'm saying too. Like, that also has to be like a little bit of excitement, considering how much you put into the draft, right? If you're looking at it of like new head coach, right, in which you're doing this deep cleanse, you're getting rid of some people too. Like, that has to be just like, okay, cool. Like, we essentially get to see a new iteration of a team.
Yeah.
Like, that's gotta be exciting.
Yeah, it's incredibly exciting, because there's more than just a player acquisition and scheme change. There's philosophy change.
Yeah,
a philosophy change in how you draft and how you acquire players and what kind of players you are acquiring for your defense. I mean, if we even change the defense slightly, you might see completely different corners, completely different defensive linemen, completely different size and shape. And you have to get used to those tendencies and understand them, and then go into the draft scene and go, what comparable players or what players that potentially have that same look and stride of what this new coaching staff wants. Who are those, and can we find them? And that's a mystery and fun for me. I think for a lot of other fans, they're just like, tell me the pick and show me the highlights. And
exactly. Just like, oh, are
they good or not?
That looks good. Okay, cool. Great. Thank you so much. That was great.
Yep. Pretty much.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to Monday. It could be one of those games where like the Packers are just like, let's keep on trucking, right? Or it could be like a team like, because we've had some good matchups of the year. Hopefully it's not like the NFC Championship game from a few years ago, because I will say, here's what I will say. When the Packers lose in the NFC Championship game, for the past like decade or so, let's not talk about the Giants, for the past decade or so, the team that then goes to Super Bowl suffers some heartbreaking defeat. The Seahawks did it 1 yard line. You did it 28-3. So what I'm saying to you is, don't beat us in the NFC Championship game. That goes out to all teams. Just let us get to the Super Bowl. Like, just because you don't want to lose it. You don't want to get that far. You don't want to get on the plane and it's dragged out. You want to go play in the Pro Bowl. Just just enjoy it. Just let the
Yeah,
Packers
you
have this
want to come down here to Orlando and you want to, just enjoy the beautiful weather while everybody's freezing.
fine.
That's what you want to do. You
Yeah,
just want to come down
exactly.
here.
Exactly.
Oh
So
my God.
that's all I'm saying. That I think that the league could do us that. It's nice courtesy. That would be
Definitely.
appreciated. But Dan, it has been great having you on. I appreciate you coming in, giving the insight, and explaining that not all Falcons fans are just like, hey, we're ready to jump off the bridge right now,
Yeah.
because you're like, hey, there's some good water down there at the bottom. So
yeah, there really is, honestly. But yes, it was exciting to come onto the show. I thank you very much for inviting me. I wish you only more success going forward. Hopefully, it all continues to just grow and build for you. And again, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Dan, tell the people where they can find you. Where can they pick your mind? Of course, the YouTube channels. Where can they seek you out?
Yep. You can find me on YouTube at Unintentional Grounding. I do a lot of film breakdown there with all 22 film, as well as coaches' views from front and back and side to side. I do a lot of Falcons talk, but I do a lot of draft talk. Well, it's one of my passions. So no matter whether you are a Packers fan or a Falcons fan or a Saints fan or a Vikings fan, you can come on down and you can see kind of where I'm trending and what players are trending up, what players are trending down, and get an unbiased sense of it all. You can find me UNGR_show on Twitter and on Instagram if you want to see a kind of a peek inside of Lieutenant Dan's life and what he does on the regular basis, as well as just come and talk to me on Twitter. And then I also have a Twitch if you guys want to come see me play some video games and still talk about film breakdowns and draft stuff on there. We do some private stuff for you guys to be able to show off some interesting players or some leaders in the clubhouse. So that's where you can find me there. Unintentional Grounding as well on Twitch. So
awesome.
Thanks.
Just make sure you check that out. All the links will be down in the description below. Dan, this has been a pleasure. And thanks so much, man.
Yes, sir.